I think it's very uncommon. I haven't heard about a lot of people saying, okay, let me take a break a little bit because, I want to build up my skills. I want to improve my portfolio and just like investing time in
Yeah,
yourself.
I think it's very important, especially in our areas, because everything evolves so quickly and things move so fast. And we have seen with Webflow, like in the last, I don't know, 6 months and 1 year, the huge amount of new features that they launched.
Welcome to the show.
Hello, Ron.
How's it
Thank you.
going?
All good? Yeah.
I don't know if you know, but you are the longest mentor on our team, the longest standing. I think it's like
Yeah.
2.5 years.
2.5 years. Yeah, already.
Yeah. So I
That's
wanted to
true.
start off by saying thank you from like thousands of students who you've helped with Webflow. And it's been amazing to have you on the team. And for 2.5 years, we don't get to chat too often, like one-on-one. So I'm excited about today's call.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
You weren't in Spain recently, right? Or I see you're back home now.
No, I was in Greece for vacation.
No, but you weren't
In
you
the
doing a course or something like
Yes, I was about to start a course in Barcelona in not graphic design, editorial design, but I'm not starting quite yet. Maybe 2024,
got it,
I'll
got it.
move to Barcelona to
Okay.
start the course. Yeah.
Oh, so I thought that was
Yeah.
already happening, but that's planned.
I actually last year I was in Barcelona for like a summer course in that same school in editorial design as well. So I was very curious about the course. I was very curious about the school. So I thought that like having a small summer course would be perfect to try the school. And I really loved it. Yeah. And I think it was a perfect situation for people that want to learn about something very specific. And the course actually is a master's, but it's like 2 times or 3 times a week after work hours. So yeah, it would be a perfect situation for someone like me that I work for Flux. I have my clients as a freelancer. So
So you did the short course also on editorial design?
I did
Why editorial
also in
design?
editorial design. Well, I always had this big passion for book design. Like, okay, I'm a book lover. I love to read and I love art books as well, photographic books. I noticed that when I design for my clients, depending on the client, of course, but my design is very editorial. And I thought that I wanted to learn a bit more about editorial design. But instead of learning on my own, I thought, why not try in a school in a different place? And actually, I live in Portugal, so Barcelona it's not that far away, so I can like every 1 or 2 weekends I can come home. And I thought it was a perfect situation, and I also wanted to learn with people, next to me after all this time learning on my own, which I really enjoyed. But now I thought that, well, I could use to have teachers, in flesh and bone next to me and colleagues.
It's funny, I think as the world become more digital and we're doing online education and everything is like remote, the community is remote. I think like the people are going to appreciate more actually hanging out with people in a physical space and sitting next to
Yeah,
people.
no,
Yeah.
that's true.
It's still
It's
important.
true. It's true.
Nice. I
It's
also
true.
think
Yeah,
I definitely think editorial design is super important, even in web design, because it's all about layout,
exactly.
how to use
Yeah,
the grid, how to organize information. Yeah, I love that.
exactly. So it was really nice experience just to have a little touch of editorial design and also printing. There is so many things about printing, and materials and machines, etc. So it was really fun. I actually want to know more about it.
I remember when I was in design school, it's because all the teachers were old school. They were like, book design is the most important thing in the world. Like web design is not even important. And I remember after I finished school, I was like really waiting. When I got married, I wanted to try out all the printing technique possible for my wedding invitations. So like emboss,
Yeah,
doing like foils, all that crazy stuff. And then I did the kind of like wedding album, like, designed
yeah,
the editorial,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
photography book. So that was a fun project. Definitely enjoyed it.
Actually, that the people on the school, they are very young people, so they have everyone has digital background. digital design background. So, and the course is very focused on magazines, for instance, like independent magazines or books or etc. So I think it was a good balance, digital and actually printing something physical.
So previously, how did you learn web design and stuff like that in general? Like self-taught, or because you got like really
Self-taught.
beautiful understanding of typography, grids and stuff.
Yeah, it's a very interesting journey because originally I'm an engineer. I'm a biomedical engineer. And when I finished my master's, I always thought of me about working in investigation, scientific investigation, doing a PhD, moving to probably be a professor. But soon I understood that that path was not made for me. I worked in the lab for a year and I was like, no, this is definitely not for me. And what I thought was actually, well, I think I'm going to learn about how to code. And that comes, it wasn't because I love to code, but I had some background from the course, of course, in a very different area. And well, I knew that there was a plenty of jobs in coding, in software. So I thought, okay, let's try to learn something. And then I become very specific in mobile development. And when I was about, I don't know, maybe a year learning on my own, doing other things, but learning on my own, then I applied to many companies. One of them hired me as an intern. And in this first company, I learned a lot. Of course, I was very, very junior. I really needed a team to grow as a developer. And something very interesting happened there. It was that there was a lack of web developer that they needed for some projects. And so they asked me if I could join and I could do web development. I said, yes, that's okay. And during this time, I was working very closely with the designer of this company. And it was really fascinating for me. I never thought of me as a designer or even drawing. I was never, from growing up, I was never a kid that draws a lot. So from working closely with the designer, I thought, well, maybe let me try to do this and this. And so he was explaining to me this technique, that technique, where I could learn more. And yeah, basically it grew from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got the tools all on your own?
Yeah, I did. I did. It was a lot of YouTube tutorials. And I think the most important thing for me, and it's something that I apply in my works still, is that, okay, I want to learn about something. I want to learn about design and web design. So let's try to get a project. And I remember that I contact the city hall here in my town to do a website for their dog shelter. And so basically it was how I learned to design,
Did
because
you
I
just
needed tools, I
randomly
needed
email
this
them,
and that.
hello, I would like to create your
Yeah,
new dog shelter website?
exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. And
And
they
they
would
were
say,
like,
sure, do it.
yeah, okay. So it was a perfect situation where I learned a lot of web development frameworks and stuff. And at the same time, I was learning how to design. So I know that their expectation were not
And you were not getting paid for
very, very
this.
high. No, I wasn't, because I really wanted to learn something, and why not doing for a place that it's very close to me, and yeah, maybe they really need this, and yeah,
Yeah, very
it's
cool.
something that I do, that I still do that with clients in client work, maybe like, okay, I want to learn this new framework and stuff. Oh, okay, I have this project, so I'm going to learn for this project. Yeah.
Very cool. And when did you discover Webflow? So initially, I understand you hand coded, so you were doing things manually.
Exactly. So from the first company where I was an intern, after 1 year and a half, I applied to a different company with a more mid position, let's say. And here in this company, I was hired as front end developer and junior web designer. So, and here we learned about Webflow. So someone discovered the Webflow in the very beginning of Webflow. I think I started learning in 2017, perhaps, because we had a lot of clients, marketing clients, and we had a huge demand of landing pages, So my boss thought, okay, let's try this tool. Let's see if this helps our work. And because we have so much demanding of small pages, let's see how this works. And basically it was there. Yeah.
Nice. And so when did you kind of like moved into freelancing?
I moved into freelancing after being in this company for 4 years. And I don't know, I had the perception, I always had this perception that I would like to work on my own. It's not working alone, but having the possibility to choose my own projects, and my clients. And so it was right before the pandemic, which was a terrible timing for a new freelancer, but it all went well, fortunately. Yeah.
Nice. And you've mentioned that right now you're actually on a break from clients just to work on your own stuff.
Yeah, just for the summer. Yeah, because maybe you know this, but like usually our portfolio is something that, okay, we do once and forget about it, but I really need to update my portfolio with recent jobs, and I want to design something different as well. So I took the summer to, okay, right now I'm just with Flux, and I want to, because I'm learning new stuff as well. So I'm learning
What are
new
you learning?
frameworks. What is right now? So I've been studying GASP, right? I think
Oh,
that's
that's
how they
cool.
say
Yeah.
GASP.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of variations in there. So I'm not, well,
Are
animations, I
you
really like animations.
yeah, are
Yeah.
you learning this for specifically for animations or for something else?
Yeah, no, it's for animations basically, yeah. More, but then I want to do something on my own, So, okay, I have this idea for a website, so I know how I want to transition from here to there, more as a book, or how I imagine it in my head, like a book, but in digital. And yeah, I'm really excited. I'm learning a lot.
Nice. I think it's very uncommon. I haven't heard about a lot of people saying, okay, let me take a break a little bit because, I want to build up my skills. I want to improve my portfolio and just like investing time in
Yeah,
yourself.
I think it's very important, especially in our areas, because everything evolves so quickly and things move so fast. And we have seen with Webflow, like in the last, I don't know, 6 months and 1 year, the huge amount of new features that they launched. So always there are things that are updating, new things are coming out, better things. So
I wanted to ask, what do you think when it comes to new technologies and stuff like that? What do you think about Framer versus Webflow or in general? What are your thoughts about AI? Is that have some way influence how you work or?
okay. So Framer, actually, I never tried it yet, but I think that during this month, I want to take a look at our course. So our new Framer course. So right now I read some things, but few months ago comparing the two platforms. So I want to go deep into into it. In terms of I think it's something good, and I think it's something that speeds up our work. But I think in the end, in terms of design, it's not going to be so creative, I think. I think because AI it captures all the information, right? And you give the AI some bullet points. I want design, please, this, and this. And in the end, at least what I've been seeing is that the designs are very, very similar, even if you have different prompts. In a more, I don't know, ideological way of thinking, I have some concerns about AI, but well, let's see.
Yeah. I think like on a personal level, I'm concerned about AI in terms of my kids and the future of humanity. But when it comes to work, I honestly have started to see a few. So I understand what you're saying, but for me personally, I don't expect AI to replace me and do the design. And if I do that, yeah, the result won't be very interesting right now. But I think that I'm working on a new website project right now for the new Webflow masterclass so I'm doing a yoga studio website, and I've used Mid-Journey to create all the photography for the website and just create a lot of visuals. Yeah, obviously, if I would work with a client, I'll probably go there and take photos myself or work with a photographer. But right now, to define the visual language and have assets to work with, that's actually the assets it created were really good. I even maintained to create kind of like a visual, consistent visual language. And so I think that specifically when it comes to, and not just photography, I mean, if I would want kind of illustrations or 3D work, that it can be a potential collaborator to help me generate assets and stuff like that. I think it can be useful.
So I think that my biggest concern is not how it can help us, but how will people use it? I don't know. I think in no time, or maybe right now, people are selling websites done by using AI totally. I'm more worried about that. How are people going to use it?
It's similar to like social media. It's like the platform itself is not inherently good or bad. It's how people use it. And sometimes people will abuse the system or do stuff that ends up badly. But I think people can sell templates these days, or people can steal other people's work today. All of these things probably can and are happening. So I don't think necessarily AI is going to change that. And I think that it probably is only going to affect kind of like the low end of the market. I think anyway, the good brands who want to work with a professional and have somebody taking care of their work, that's not going to impact them.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand that.
Cool. So you have some very cool hobbies. I don't know if to call this hobbies or like passions. You do photography, you have a radio show, and to me, it's really interesting how you develop these passions. And so you decided kind of like to maybe monetize or just like say, okay, I'm going to make money as a designer or a developer, and these things I'm going to do for fun. But I would love to hear your thoughts about how all of these things work together. Like, why not monetize or make money as a photographer or as a, radio station? How do you think about these, and like what is a passion, hobby, work? How do you think about the interactions between them?
That's a very interesting question. Well, I never thought about my hobbies slash passions as a way of income, mostly because, for instance, the radio, I was in a radio station a few years ago. I did a course there, and that happened because I'm naturally very curious about everything. And that specific radio station was a traditional radio, with studios, etc. And they opened a few courses, and I thought, well, I have nothing to do on Wednesdays nights, so why not? I like music. I don't know, let's try. It basically things usually start like this. Okay, let's try to do that. And the first time that I remember that the first time I sat on the studio was incredible. It was like, oh, it was like something exploded. I love it. And a few years after, I was not working for that, not working or not. I was not working. I wasn't earning money in this radio, but I was not there yet. But I always had that urge to continuing to do radio, but in a different way, so I could, I don't know, involve more people to do so. And once I was in Amsterdam and I was walking down the street and I saw a radio that was in a store, basically. They had, that huge windows of the store, and they had like a DJ, they had a studio, uh, everything covered in glass, so everyone could look at them, and you can actually enter there, talk with people, and interact with them. And I thought, well, this would be so great to do in my city. And when I come back, I talked with some friends. And first, it was like a kind of a crazy idea. Like, we have no money. How do we purchase, materials, a place, DJs, musicians, etc. But you know, when you call one person, then other, and then other friend and other friend, and we're like, okay, let's do this. And so we created a radio here in my hometown, and it's still working after 5 years. And our purpose is, this is a community radio, so it's an online radio, right? So everything, that whole sets are broadcasted live. We are open. It's an old store in the whole part of town, and right now it's like a meeting point for people here, which is really, really nice. And everyone can join us and everyone can play. Of course, we do some kind of selection. It's not important for us, the technical part of it, but what is interesting to us is someone that likes music and wants to, show something different. I don't know. And yeah, it's been a crazy adventure. We love it. And it's more a community thing, so we don't think about it in terms of let's do some income. We do have income, so we have partners that pay for the radio, so because we have a lot of expenses, but we also have companies that pay, and also a Patreon, so everyone can help us, and we have a lot of people, and that's what basically is helping us on this last 5 years. And so we never thought about monetizing that. I think it's really important, especially in the place, in the neighborhood where the radio is, because it's a very complicated place. Well, in the last years, people said that it was a very dangerous place. I don't think so, but it's difficult. It's a tough area, and we notice now that is a very important thing there, and that we are making some things good there. And people from the neighborhood, they come to join us. They want to talk to us. So yeah, it's something really, really close to my heart. And I do
It
have
sounds
a shows
amazing.
there as
I
well.
I don't know if it's
Yeah,
just my business oriented entrepreneurial thing, but they were
yeah.
like my thoughts is like, oh my God, you created something amazing and everybody likes it and it makes good impact on the community. Why not bring sponsors? Why not do this and that? And you can make a living doing that.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
it's always kind of like incomprehensible
Yeah,
to me.
yeah.
Oh no, we're just doing it for fun. It's like
But I never thought about making a living from the radio itself, because I really like to do what I do. So freelancing, designing, and it's way more stable than actually a radio. And so I never thought about it like I'm going to live with this. No, it's something that I love to do, that takes me a lot of time as well, but I really, really love it.
yeah.
Yeah. And photography began maybe a year and a half ago. I was having a trip to Istanbul, and my phone, the camera on my phone was not working properly. And I was, well, but should I buy a new phone just because of the camera? I don't know. And then I remember that my parents offered me, like, that huge cameras. It was a Nikon. Um, and I thought, well, maybe I try. I think I watched like a couple of tutorials on how to be able, to use the machine. And when I was in Istanbul, it was like, again, that feeling of, I was taking photos, and it was again that feeling of, wow, this is so
Is it
feels
digital
so
or
good.
film?
Digital. I
Digital.
have right now, I have like two digitals, and I have one analogic, and then I have a few lenses after that, because then I was, when I like a subject, I became very, very focused on that, and I read everything and I watch videos, and it's something that I really love to do. So I'm launching a website now with my photography. Yeah. But in terms of incoming from, yeah, well, why not? Maybe I can see myself doing some jobs with photography, but not my main thing.
I also had a period of photography very similar to what you're describing. My grandfather passed away, and he had this kind of like old-fashioned camera. Back then, I think it was like over 20 years ago. So there weren't these digital DSLRs. So like digital cameras were really crappy. And now I
Yeah.
got access to like a professional camera with a nice lens. And so I started learning on that. And that got me into, yeah, I used to have like an online gallery and I did some photo challenges. And then, yeah, when I did some client work, I actually did their portraits and stuff like that and charged them money for photography. So it did came handy as kind of like an upsell, not like the main thing, but it was nice. So you're living in Portugal, as you've mentioned. There's so many people right now moving to Portugal. my business coach, who's actually Australian, lives in Portugal. So many people in Israel are now kind of like moving to Portugal with digital nomads and stuff like that. And I saw that you've shared recently on Twitter, like the effect of this, like rising costs and stuff like that. So I wanted to get your perspective, because on one sense, you're also kind of like traveling. Maybe I'll move to Barcelona. So you can work from anywhere. So you potentially can also be kind of like a digital nomad, but you're also seeing the impact of what it's doing to your country. What's your take on this? Like,
Exactly.
how do you feel about this?
So, yeah, so what we're feeling right now in Portugal is that because of this huge demand that we are having in the last, I would say this started maybe 8, 9 years ago, perhaps. And what happened, and I don't blame the people that move here. I blame, and most of the people here blame the governments that were ensuring that Airbnbs could rise, and when Airbnb started in Portugal, and I think most of the places, there was no regular limitation whatsoever. So what happened was that a lot of cities in Portugal had a lot of houses in whole towns that weren't being used, or if they were rented for old people that lived there, for like 40 years or so. And what happened was that it was allowed that big economic groups came here, and they bought a lot of houses on the major cities in Portugal. So what happened was that because there was still a demand for houses for the Portuguese people, there were a few houses, so the prices rised. And right now, I would say that in Portugal, the governments, they try to help this rising of people coming to Portugal, of people coming here to work, but without thinking, okay, do we have what it takes to can handle all this demand of people and the people that lives here, And I think that just a year ago, that comes to them, okay, maybe we need to do something because people are rioting, people are going to the street. And I'm not against that. As you said, I travel, I plan to move to Barcelona, but if the city halls and the government don't have specific, numbers of houses that go for tourism or for renting for foreigners and for the people that live here, it's a very complicated situation. And this is not only in Lisbon, it's now all the major cities in Portugal right now. And there are other problems. So the minimum wage here in Portugal is really, really low. So most people right now, because this affects now most of the cities in Portugal, so people now are really struggling to have a house, and even in central Portugal. And it's a very sad situation. Like, I know that, for instance, for me right now to rent a place in Lisbon is almost impossible. And I'm very fortunate for what I have right now. It would be way difficult for me to have a home in Lisbon. And a lot of people are moving out. And basically what we see now, if you go to Lisbon, what we feel is that it became kind of a playground. A lot of people, most of the old businesses are closed, and they are now, different restaurants, etc. It's something that
But
affects us all here.
Yeah, for sure. But I wonder if, I don't know, I'm thinking about all of the big cities, like whatever, London, Paris, where of course they are very, very expensive. They are I don't know if tourist oriented, but there's tons of tourists and a lot of businesses that catering to that. And of course, that means that maybe like local population goes out of the center, but it also brings business to a lot of them and a lot of money coming from, other countries, and maybe has a net benefit. I don't know. I'm just wanted to hear your perspective about Portugal in general. And as I said, the context that I'm hearing about it is that Portugal is giving away, kind of like makes it very easy for digital nomads. That's why I have a lot of friends in Israel who are like, hey, let's move to Portugal, because they make it very easy. I think they want to encourage people who, make money in dollars or something like that to come live in Portugal and spend that dollars in the local economy in Portugal. So I wanted your take on it. But you're happy in Portugal? You would, stay there, you think?
I am.
Build your family there?
Yeah, I think so. It's a very good place to live. I can't complain. And also family and friends are very, very important to me. So having, you know, my basis here, it's, yeah, I'm really fortunate. And I really enjoy to live here. Yeah.
I feel I was gonna say I live in Israel, which is a very, very bad place to live in from a lot of perspectives. But my friends are family here, so I think I'm like I'm stuck here because I care about my friends and family. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll stay here with all of the problems.
No, I understand. And even that here that I'm planning to move to Barcelona, it's something very specific because I know that I will adapt to Barcelona in no time. Maybe if it was, I'm very Southern European, you know. So as I said, I was in Greece a month ago, and I was like, okay, it's almost like home, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And so the habits are very similar. So yeah, I think I get used to in no time.
Okay, here's another thing that I wanted to. You told me that, what keeps you up at night is environment, climate change, that kind of stuff. And my question to you is, so as I've mentioned, I'm living in Israel right now, and it's I don't know if you're following politics or stuff like that, but there's like lots of
Mhm.
protests here.
Yeah.
People are very concerned about, the country becoming less democratic and blah blah blah. And everybody around me is kind of like panicking and filled with anxiety of like, this country they're very stressed about Israel. And it's like, that's what keeps most of the people around me up at night. And when they're talking to me about it and like, aren't you stressed? Aren't you like, what, this country is going to hell? And I'm like, you know what? I don't, it's very difficult for me to decide what do I need to be stressed about. Is this country going to hell, or climate change is going to, we're doomed because of climate change, or we're doomed because of AI. I'm just like, everybody is attacking me. Like the end of the world is coming to me from all kinds of places. So I've
Yeah.
decided I will not stress about anything right now because I feel kind of like out of power. I don't know, powerless. I don't know how to say this. How do you decide that that's your major concern, or what are you doing about it? Or
This particular summer that we're living right now, it's been very different from the previous ones. It's extremely hot. We are seeing extreme climate situations in a lot of places around the world. And now with this situation with the current in Atlantic, El Nino, I think that is basically turning away, or the direction is changing. So it means that the climate will change a lot. And I don't know, this climate was something that always concerned me. But right now, this summer has been incredibly stressful, I think. And because, I think about future, I would love to have kids, but should I have kids right now? And it's something that I think a lot, really. I think a lot about it. Will these extreme events continue? How is life going to be in 20, 30 years from now? And yeah, it's something that concerns me a lot, particularly this summer. It has been
yeah,
really, really crazy. And sometimes I basically I do a bit what you said. I have to shut down, news about, because it really makes me anxious about everything. And sometimes I think, okay, I want to buy a small house in the middle of the mountain, and move there, and my internet will be basically blocked for everything outside of my work, and living away from everything.
I don't know if this is COVID or global warming or whatnot, but I think everybody now has this fantasy of just getting away from it all. And just like, I'm gonna live in a farm and raise my vegetables, and I don't want to talk to you
Yeah.
people anymore.
But the COVID, what happened with me was that, so for the first part of COVID, so in 2020, I was basically at my place, at my apartment. And so I spent the first 3 or 4 months here, and I was going crazy. Like, I love my apartment, but it's not supposed for me to be 24/7 here inside. And it really made me anxious, a lot of anxious. And I remember that when I went to my mom's house, which is a house with a big garden and everything, I spent I said to my mom, okay, I'm just going to rest here for a week. And a week turned into almost 3 months, because I really needed the space, be able to go outside. And
Yeah, for us, we were very fortunate. when COVID hit, we were living in a rather small apartment, I would say, and we went crazy. And then I think 6 months into it, in August, we moved into a different house that had a garden, and that was like so significantly, changed everything. So yeah, it's crazy. What are you reading right now? You said you love reading.
I love reading. Actually, I'm reading a Portuguese author called José Saramago, and he's the Nobel Prize in Literature in Portugal. It's the only one. And it's a book. Oh, how do I translate that? I'm trying to translate, but I can't.
Is it
Anyway,
fiction? It's like
I
a
just
story?
started. It's fiction. It's fiction. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just started, I think yesterday or 2 days ago. And it's really fun because this author has a very specific way of writing. He is really good. He's a really good writer, and it's one of my favorites. And the story is basically one day in Portugal during the 90s, there are registered no deaths in all of the country. And people were okay, there was one day we know that, okay, that's fine. But what happened in the next days, weeks, and months, no one died. And so first it was everyone was, oh my God, no one is dying. This is so good, this is so great. But then we forgot about the social, economic impact that something like this happened. That comes with this. So it's been interesting. I just read like 3 chapters right now. So
That's a really
yeah,
interesting thought experiment. Like, what happens if
yeah,
nobody dies? Yeah, it's a
yeah.
it's
No,
a
but
it's a
this,
very big discussion right now because there are a lot of people who are like, we should try to overcome death, and then there are people who are like, wait, is that a good idea?
yeah, but it's really nice because then it starts to talk about, okay, but if no one is dying, how is going to be our social security? How is going to be our economics? How would be our justice security? Everything that comes with that. And this author is very good creating books like this. So he has another book, very, very interesting. And it's basically the Iberian Peninsula. Basically, basically comes off from Europe. So it becomes an island, and floating around the Atlantic. And so the story is this.
Nice. So he always
So
takes like a concept and then he builds a story around it.
exactly, exactly. And he's
Nice.
very
Sounds
and
good.
he has a very own perspective because he was a communist. He was in the Communist Party, so he had a lot of political views into the books as well. It's very interesting.
All right, Joanna, it was so fun catching up. Good
No,
talking to
thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Is there any place where people can or should reach out to you, or like LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram? Are you active anywhere right now?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Twitter. Okay, well, I don't know how is the future right now with Twitter, but well, you
Twitter
can
is now
reach
called
out to me.
X.
X, exactly. But the domain still is twitter.com. I checked it yesterday. It was really weird for me 2 days ago. I was on my phone and I wanted to open Twitter, and now they changed the icon. First, I was like, what? And oh, okay. Okay. But
Will be
yeah.
interesting to see, because it's funny, I'm looking at your website right now and you have all of these kind of like email, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and I'm thinking if you're going to change that Twitter into X, it's just going to look like a close button on your menu.
Exactly. So I think we have to write everything, Instagram, Twitter, etc. But yeah, yeah.
All right, amazing. Good chatting. I'll catch you later this week on our
Bye bye.
all-hands
Thank
meeting.
you. Bye
Bye.
bye.